So let's get started. So this is the Git/GitHub lecture. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So to start out conceptually, we're going to define what Git and GitHub are. So we have Git. So let me give one more second. All right, so Git and GitHub they seem for like pretty similar things, but they're very different. Git is the actual version control system that allows you to work with code and commit it to your history, while GitHub is a website that allows you to collaborate on a code base with other people. So it's like a remote version of Git. So it's kind of, you can think of it kind of like Google Drive for code. And so a version control system specifically is a system that records changes in code made over time and does this in a sort of database called a repository that stores your code changes and your current state of your code. And since it stores the changes of your code, it's easily revertible. So a good way to think of this as an example is like a form of Google Docs. Google Docs, you can work with a bunch of other people, but you might not have known that there's a whole version control system in Google Docs where you can see the version history and who edited each part of the document. So like here you can see, I guess I don't have a mouse. You can see like the date they were edited and the parts that were edited by who. And so Git allows you to do a similar thing, but with code. So here's a example of a GitHub repository. You can see here the times the code was changed and who specifically changed it. There are code commit titles, numbers. So it allows you to check how code has changed over time and specifically by who and what they've done. So imagine you're trying to make a project with a bunch of other people and you're not like working on the same laptop, but you're just working separately and you don't have any sort of version control. So I'm here working on version 1.1 of the code, and so is Tony. But imagine that I make some sort of new change, new feature, and I call it version 1.2. How do I make it so that Tony works on the same part without whatever he's been writing being overwritten by what I've written? I could, I guess, send it by like airdrop to his computer, or maybe email it to him or text the code, but it doesn't really help with like compiling together and like putting the code together, since he could have done stuff that doesn't really mesh well with what I've done. So Git and GitHub is really the solution to that. So if you guys don't have Git installed, that's fine. You can do this later, but there's no assignment with this. But to start out like working on Git, the first thing you should do is start a project. And the best way to do this is to go to github.com. I'll go through this. I'll go to this now. So first step you do is create a repo on GitHub. So let me do that real quick. So here's GitHub. This is my account. I want to make a new repository. So I just click on new, right? And so when you do that, it takes a little bit of time, but you can give it a name. So I'll name it intro to backend Git demo. And you can give a description, demo 1. You can make it public or private. I'll make it, I'll make it private. You add a README, you add a git ignore, all sorts of options. And when you click create, it'll make an empty repository on GitHub. So the next step you're going to want to do is put this online repository onto your local computer. And to do this, you can just copy this link that it gives you, and then type in git clone into a terminal. So let me open up a terminal. I can probably do it here in VS Code. Make a new terminal here. And one thing you got to know is, where do you want your repository to live on your computer? So right now, it's really small. I'll make it bigger in a second. Okay. bigger. I don't think this is working. There we go. So right now I'm in just my home directory. Let me go to documents, Cornell. Oh, let me go to that. Let me go to the backend course. And I'm gonna go to the I'll just make a new file, new folder. I'll just do it here. So if you're in the place you want to go to, you can just say git clone and then paste in the link that you want to clone. You might have to say yes to some things, but not permission. I think I have to make an SSH key. So if it says like permission denied, you might need to use a different system. Oh, I was doing the wrong thing. So make sure that if you're using like your own GitHub account, once you've set up SSH, click on HTTPS. This should work out of the box. Let me see. And it looks like it worked. It said I clone an empty repository. So if I do ls, you can see that it makes a new folder for you. So I'm going to go into that. And I've just copied a repository from online onto my computer. And you can do this with any repository that is public or you've been added to as a collaborator. So let me quickly add Tony to be a collaborator. So if you want to add someone to be a collaborator to your repository, you can go to settings, collaborators, and then, oh wow, I gotta open my phone up to do this. Sorry about that. Here. Now you can just add people with their email. And then people you add as a collaborator will get it in their email. So yeah, that's just how you create a repository, add collaborators. So now you have a repository, and if you made it yourself, it's going to be empty. So how do you actually use it to make code and share it? So the general workflow when you have a Git repository is that you do three things, or you have three spaces. The first is like your actual folders in your computer. It's like your project directory. So you might have like if you have a Python project, you might have like a source folder, and then you have your app.py, and then your requirements.txt and so on. But you also have with Git a staging area, and you can add files that you edit onto your staging area to be prepared to be committed. So once you commit a file in your staging area, it gets saved in your local repository. So here's kind of what do you call it? A graphic that shows this kind of thing. So here's my normal folder. I make a change to one of my code files, like I add a new feature. And so I want to save it onto my repository. So how do I do that? Up here, you can see in the top right corner, you just type in git add and then the name of the file, and it'll be put into a staging area. So once into the staging area, you can put it into your repository by saying git commit and then /m and then type in your message. So like your message could be like developed or implemented get all tasks or something. And once you've committed it, it should be in your local repository. And that's generally how you do it. But if you want to put it onto like GitHub or some other remote repository, you have to say git push on the top right, and it'll put your commits into your remote repository. And so to reiterate on one thing, you can add multiple files to your staging area by typing their name or like saying git add dot to add all of them. And if you make a commit, it'll put all of your files into your repository. So it's going to be like pushing them all in. Yeah. What do you have? The video will. I don't remember if we have the page on the book. If we have a page, I'll upload it to this website. Yeah. So yeah, you just push your commits to your online repository. And the way this looks at when you look at GitHub is that it shows your commits with the commit name. So if you push multiple commits, they'll show up multiple times. And the people who push those commits will be put with those commits. So like each of these are made by Noah Solomon. He typed in git add to his files. He did git commit, and then he pushed them to this online repository. So let me try out that workflow. So right now I have nothing in my repository. I'm gonna really quick open this folder in my VS Code. So I'm gonna just go to here. And for this example, I'm gonna use the demo code. So I'm gonna put that into the repository. Here's the demo code. I'm just gonna copy all of it. And then put it into my repository. Don't know if that works. My laptop is pretty slow. So this will take a little bit of time. Okay. I'm gonna delete the virtual environment. Okay, so pretend like I just coded up the entire demo in my repository. So I just made like a new file and typed up all this stuff. So everything from last Thursday. And now I want to put it onto GitHub. So the way I would do that is first, what I would do is like type in git status. Let me move into the repository. So cd intro to git. So typing in git status typically tells you what is in your staging area and what's not. So it says that these files in red aren't staged. So I want to move them from the project directory to the staging area. So you say git add and then app.py, and then git add requirements.txt. And then I usually do git status again. And then just to see like they turn green. So now they're in the staging area. So from the slides, the next step is to commit all this code. So to commit, I would just say git commit and create tasks demo. And now it's in my local repository. So if I do git status, it doesn't show up anymore since I moved it from the staging area to my repository. And now I can say git push, but yeah, and it'll go on to GitHub. So let me go to GitHub and see if this works. Yeah, this is my Cornell. Yeah. And app.py and requirements.txt has shown up. Type in the link. It should be just entered. Wait, are you using your personal GitHub? Oh shoot. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, the Cornell has its own weird GitHub like private thing. So it might be weird if you add Cornell students to your personal one. So here, type in your personal one. No. So we just want to like also demo how it works when you have multiple people on the same repository, but sometimes adding people to GitHub is kind of key. There you go. All right, yeah. We'll see if that works. But let me do one more thing. All right, yeah. You got it? Okay. All right, so cool. So back to where we were. You can see now that the code that I just committed and pushed is showing up on the website. So you can click on the files, you can see the contents of them. You can even edit them on the website, but it's kind of the same thing as doing on your laptop. So yeah, that's kind of the general flow, like doing git status to see what you have staged, adding every file you want to the repository, and then saying git commit to put it on your local computer repository, and git push to push it to the website. One more thing that's pretty cool is that you can like, if I make a change and then I check, uh, make a change and I do git status, and I see that there's some stuff in the stage repository, and I don't want to like type the name of the file because it might be a long name. You're gonna say git add dot to add everything in your staging area to be staged. So if you git status, it just adds everything. So git add dot's like pretty useful to use. It just adds everything. So back to the slides, we're gonna talk about merge conflicts. So conflicts happen when like most people will change the same part of the project at the same time. So Git tends to be able to handle merge conflicts pretty well on its own if they're not too complex. But if it can't handle a merge conflict occurs, so if there's a merge conflict, you have to manually resolve it on your own before you can actually put it onto the main branch. So we're gonna try to show that after we talk about branches. So when you work on like a feature in your project, you might not want to work on the same like code as someone else working on the same feature because you might want to work on something that's not being touched by everyone else. So you can make a branch from the code that's kind of like a tree branch away from the main tree of like an actual tree, you know? So it's kind of like this. So if you're on the first blue dot on the left and you make a separate branch to make a new feature, other people can modify the main branch or push their own branches to push the main trunk forward, but it won't modify your code until you move back to the main branch or put your branch back into it. So you can merge branches together to bring your code back together. And now I'm going to show off a little bit about that. So the way you want to make a branch is by saying git checkout -b, and then you can say the name of the branch. So new feature, and it'll tell you that she moves to a new branch. You can check the branch you're on by saying git branch, and it'll tell you a list of all the branches that exist. So I have main and new feature. And the way you move between branches is by saying git checkout, and then the branch you want to go into. And now I'm back to main. So just saying git checkout is how you move. Back to new feature. I can make a change in this code. Let's say I make a new comment, says test. Do the same thing with git status. I can add code to my staging area, check if it's in there. I can commit. So commit comments to new branch. And then I just put it into my branch. So the code isn't in the main branch, it's in my side one. And you can say git push to push it online. But if there's no branch on the GitHub, you have to say set upstream origin new feature. Usually whenever like I'm in a branch that I just make on my local computer and push it, it'll tell me that there's none that exists online. So I just kind of copy what it tells me to do here. And then it just makes the branch on GitHub and then does it for me. And now if I'm on GitHub, I can check here. You can see that oops. You click on here and you can see that the branch is now online. And now you have two separate like threads of thought of code, or I could just say branches. So separate branches of code, and they can diverge, converge, and so on. So if I click on app.py, here's the comment I made in the branch, and that comment doesn't exist on the main one. Now I'm going to talk about pull requests. So say that you've been working on a branch, some new feature that's going to make your app really cool, but you need to put it back into the main app, so like the main branch. And the way to do that is that you typically want to get consensus with your team that your code isn't broken. So the best way to do it is through a pull request, and it'll allow your teammates to review your code before you can actually merge your branch into main. So let's try that out before we go to the summary. So I'm in my new feature branch and I want to put it into main, right? So the way you do that is to go to pull request on the top, make this a bit bigger. So now I'm in the pull request tab and I want to say new pull requests. And then you can just click on, so the way this little thing works is that I want to put in new feature and I want to put it into main. So like the arrow goes into, and I can just create a pull request. And I can say, I want to add a comment to this code. Please accept this. And I can create it. And I can add people who have been collaborating with me to actually look at it. So I'll add in Tony once this page loads. And so I requested his review by clicking on reviewers. You click on the cog up there, you can click on their name, and then you just request a review. And so I just like, just accept it. Wait a minute. I guess that's the let's do what's that? What do I? Yeah, that's right. Let me see what I'm doing wrong here. Normally supposed to be able to review it. Let's see where it is. I mean, you could just put a comment on the bottom. Probably also good. And let me add a rule. So you can also modify the settings of your repository, and you can say that you require approvals from someone before you can merge it. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Now you should be able to approve it. Yeah. So refresh the page. I guess it. Let's see. Let's see if it yeah, click like that. Not more. Scroll up. Here. Yeah. We can just do it. Can I just comment? Just like that quick review changes. I mean, I guess you have to create it. Say something. What we do. All right. Okay, let me go back to the PR. So you can look at the list of the pull requests. I'm going to go back to the one I just made. And I can see here that Tony said my review looks good. So it looks good to me, looks good. And now I can merge it into main. So just clicking merge pull requests, confirm. And now my branch was put into the main branch. So the code is now in there. So let me check that if that's true. And yeah, I put a little comment there in my branch and now it's a main. So yeah. Let me go back to merge conflicts. So let me reiterate on merge conflicts real quick. So like I said earlier, if we were like working on separate parts of the code, like I'm working on one block and Tony's working on the same block and like a different branch, and he merges into main, and I merge mine into main, there might be parts of it that aren't that are like too conflicting to be automatically merged in like that. In that case, we have to merge we have to manually fix the conflicts. So that means like we have to choose what parts of the codes we want to keep, which parts we should modify so that the code works as we both expect. And that's just what a merge conflict is. It's best to avoid them because it can cause headache to like fix an entire file to be what you guys want it to be. Yeah, let me go to the summary. Oops. So in summary, the useful Git commands that you guys are probably going to use all the time when you make a project are git clone, which just takes the repository from GitHub and puts it onto your local machine. Git add allows you to put files from your product directory into your staging area. Git commit allows you to move files from your staging area into your local repository. And then git push lets you move it from your local repository into your remote repository. So it pushes all of your commits. And then one thing that's new is that git pull allows you to get code from your GitHub into your local repository. So if it's like, if I go back to main, so git checkout main, I don't have the thing that I just merged online on my laptop. So I want to pull all the new changes into my code. So typing git pull will update the files that were changed remotely here. And as you can see, test was added. It was updated from the GitHub repository.
I was able to get a merge conflict out.
Oh, you want to show it? Yeah, I can show it. I can show it. So we were able to get a merge conflicts. So Tony made a new PR, and the PR has a conflict between what we have right now. So if I click on resolve conflicts, this is kind of like what will always look like a merge conflict. What you'll see is that what's coming in from Tony's branch, this string, conflicts with what's already in the main branch, which is the comment I made. And we have to manually resolve this. So we have to figure out what we want to keep and what we want to go throw away. And the way to resolve it is to like
See which one.
you got to remove like this metadata stuff. This actually gets added to your code. So by removing the parts that you want, say I don't want his string, I want my comment. I remove the comment along with the arrows and then clean up the rest of it, and that'll resolve it. I can also just remove my comment and keep his string like that. That should also help. But I can also decide to keep both by just not deleting the text. It's mainly just markers. So once I've resolved it, you can click mark as resolved, and then you have to merge it in because it's kind of like any other code change. You have to commit it, and you can see here another git commit was made. So it's no different than making a change to your own local file. And then I can approve it myself. Since he made this PR, I can approve it. Let me say, let me see. Let me add myself as a reviewer. Now that I'm a reviewer, I should be able to, let me refresh this page. Now I can add my own review. So you can see what it's like to be the reviewer. So you can look at all the files they changed, what they've changed. So this green part means that he added a whole string. And I can either approve it, make a comment, or reject this PR. So they have to make changes to it. So I'm just going to approve it and say, looks okay. And I can submit that. And then we can just merge it all together. So Yeah, merge. And there you go. That's basically Git as you guys probably use for now. So yeah, we kind of already talked about this. So people can have their own branch of features. People can make pull requests to combine their branches together. And then merge conflicts can arise, but you guys can figure out how to deal with them based on the context of what you guys want to do. And yeah, that's kind of it. So when you guys do the hack challenge, it's going to be really important to be able to use Git when you have a team of students, like from iOS or Android or design or even backend, as you guys will want to, well, mainly backend because you guys will be working with the backend members. But you guys will really want to be able to work together and not have to, I guess, like send it through email or something. That'd be bad. And yeah, that's kind of it.